Hi everyone, welcome back to Monday Medz. I hope your week is off to a great start. Happy Monday to you all. Yes, it's Monday. It is Monday, and yes, it's mid-month. It's mid-April, and the time has flown so quickly. Where have the time gone? All right, so like you know, I did say it in the first video for this month that yes, April is dubbed Autism Awareness Month. How aware are you about autism? What is autism? How is it manifested? What are some of the signs, or how can you identify someone with autism? So, like I shared with you in the first video this month, we will do a few videos on autism. Autism. People with autism. Yes, I learned it from my professor, Mical Forsythe. Yes, shout out to you, Maggie. We're thinking about you. We miss you. And yes, she taught us so much, taught David and I so much about developmental disabilities, and autism is one of such. So autism, which is, well, it is ASD, so it's autism spectrum disorder. So it's one of the developmental disorders, which is a host of, or a list of developmental disorders, which autism is one such disorder. According to the American Psychiatric Association, autism is a developmental condition that affects social interaction, speech, nonverbal communication, along with how children or people process information. And so it can be seen, according to CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Autism is usually identified in children around 2 to 3 years old. And the statistics, it's about 1 in every 59 children come down with autism. Now, later in the next video, we will talk about, we will investigate the connection between autism and vaccination. So that will be our next video. However, autism, I must say that autism does affect boys more than girls. It's quite interesting, right? And so this video we're sharing today, it's an interview that we did with the Mical Forsythe from Northern Caribbean University Radio, or NCU FM. Yes, radio, and we did that last April. I know many of you probably heard the recording before. Hope this will refresh you. And for those of you who have not heard it, yes, you will get a chance to listen in. I hope that you will be educated and you'll be encouraged if you have a child with autism, and if you know someone with autism, or someone with a child with autism, that this will be an encouragement to them and also an inspiration to them. So keep watching. Remember, I'm your health educator, Tanisha Lawrence, and yes, this is your Monday Medz.
To speak with us about the subject of autism. All right, good afternoon, specialist in the field of development disabilities, Mr. and Mrs. David Lawrence. Welcome to The Drive.
Hi, good afternoon, Michael.
We're talking about autism this afternoon. Before we even go anywhere, what are developmental disabilities? What are some developmental disabilities?
There are so many. There's Fragile X, there's Down syndrome, there's autism, as we want to speak about it. There's mental retardation. There's so many. Even on the autism spectrum, autism is not just the only one on the spectrum. There are so many others that's on the autism spectrum. Asperger's syndrome. There's so many.
And Michael, good afternoon, listeners. The developmental disabilities, these are disabilities that are developed, as the word says, whether it is that a child is born through the developmental stages, through conception, all the way up to child's birth or delivery, and also they may develop these disabilities or disorders over time, usually within the first 2-3 years of life.
Yes, I
So
get it.
some of them also may have cerebral palsy, is another developmental disability, and there are also speech impairment and
Yes.
and visual impairment also that's
Yes,
a
yes.
part of the developmental disability.
Let's talk autism. What is autism?
Autism is a developmental disorder. It has a variety of severity, which is characterized by difficulty in social interaction, communication, and by restricted or repetitive patterns of thought and behavior. Now, what does that mean? It means that people with autism, mainly children, some of them, they are very, well, we would think of them as being antisocial. But it's not that they're antisocial, it's just because of the way how the brain works. And I should let you know, it's a neurological disorder. So because of that, the brain does not function the way how we would think that quote-unquote normal children operate. So they're not that sociable. That's on one end of the spectrum. And on the other end of the spectrum, they can be very social. They will run to you, they'll hug you, they'll even want to kiss you.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, they're clingy. So yes, from one end of the spectrum where they're not all that sociable to the other hand where they're very sociable. So I would think of the children and people with disorder needs love and understanding. That's one of the main things they need. They need love and understanding. So don't
Yes.
be looking at a child with autism and think that, oh, he's so rude. No, you just have to understand that they have a disorder that causes them to be differently from everyone else. They actually look just like any other child. They don't look strange. They don't look like aliens or anything like that. They, well, some of them do have a slightly larger head than the quote-unquote normal child,
No,
but
yeah.
they are just, they're just like any other child. Yeah.
So if looks, if you say it's not no huge difference with looks, how then is autism, any other autism spectrum disorders diagnosed?
Well, there's no medical check that can be done, but there's a system of like a therapist would monitor the child over time, and there's an assessment that is done. So over a time of a clinical assessment can be done, and over this time the child is monitored to see their behavior, see their behavioral patterns. Some of these children, they don't communicate verbally, so you look at the pattern of behavior, and all of these things, it's like all children with autism have similar patterns.
Yes.
Some are on the higher scale of the spectrum, some on the lower scale. You can, as a trained as a trained therapist, you will be able to identify.
And Michael, like David was saying that children with autism, and we use the term children with autism, the people first approach our language. We do not really say autistic child, because when you say that, it's more of a labeling. So we do go with from the
So
American
children with autism versus
yes,
I got
children
you.
with autism, because one of the things we want to leave with your listening audience is that children with autism, they can come out of or develop to be people of stalwarts of society. And one such person that I'll mention that we cannot end this interview without speaking about her. Her name is Mary Temple Grandin. She is a woman who has lived with autism. She's 72 years old, and she's an American professor. Yes, and I should say Dr. Temple Grandin, because she is she's a woman with autism, and she advocates for people with autism. Now, as we talk about autism and how you can diagnose it, you will see a certain form of behaviors. Many people with autism, they are for them, they can't deal with too much noise. For one. Two, the lights, the fluorescent lights may affect them, so they may run and scream and bang their heads and all of those things. So there's a list or a group of behaviors that you will notice children or people with autism.
Yes. Speaking of being able to develop and take their places in society, I'm currently watching this series. I know it's TV, but I'm currently watching this series called The Good Doctor. The star of the series, the doctor, he's on the spectrum, and we see some of the challenges with communication that he might have. My question to and I want to pose this question to Mrs. Lawrence. Recently, we were talking about some developmental disabilities, and we realized that a lot of the questions that are being asked, like by the listeners in WhatsApp, let me frame it in terms of autism. Is it hereditary? And I know parents out there might be wondering if they did something wrong, so to speak, and what they could have done better. Parents we try to blame ourselves all the while.
Yes.
Is autism hereditary?
Okay, so autism is not necessarily any fault of the parents. I know that as we studied working with people with disabilities and their parents or developmental disabilities, we know that that's one of the big things. Especially women may blame themselves for having a child with disability. Now, there's nothing on the parents' part that can hinder or trigger or what have you in terms of autism or disabilities, some disabilities, developmental disabilities. As it relates to autism, though, it is not. It can be passed down in your genes. Especially if there is a family member or a parent who has autism. So it can be hereditary in that sense. It can be also, as more and more of us women and men have children older, that can be a trigger or so. But in terms of it being hereditary, that's the most that we have seen in terms of studies that have been done in terms of for autism and some other disabilities.
Now, Sir Lawrence, it is this month, the month of April, World Autism Awareness Month, as we try to raise awareness about this, try to foster some sense of inclusivity. What would be your final words to the listeners right now as it relates to the importance of understanding, because I know that education can be a huge point, but also fostering inclusivity?
For me, I would say to parents with a child that has autism that they should not give up hope on such a child, because many times, when we have a child in a home that has a disability, it's as if everyone isolate themselves from the child. Don't do that. Try to get there. They're so intelligent. They can be included in all of the family activities, whether it's going to the beach, whatever it is. They're just another child like anyone else. And don't give up on them. I would go as far as to let you know there's actually an association in Jamaica, the Jamaica Autism Support Association, and they reach out to parents who have children that has autism, and they give a supporting hand, whether to get these children into schools where they get special education. I could give you their contact number and their email address, where there they are all about inclusion. So I'll give you their phone number now.
Yes, go ahead.
It's 876 776 6827. That's 776 6827. And their email address is jasa.jm2k9 at gmail.com. That's jasa.jm2k9 at gmail.com. So that's one good source. Yes, I was saying that's one good source of support.
One good source for the families.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And final words to you, Mrs. Lawrence.
Well, in all of our relationships, we need to seek God's wisdom. And having a child with disability, there's this book that is when your child has a disability. You can Google it. I don't remember the person's name, but that gives hope, and it does show you that yes, you can definitely love this child. This child is your child, and there is hope, and you should do everything possible in your will as a parent to see that this child succeed, because this child is your child, and this child is a gift from God.
Here and there, specialists in the field of developmental disabilities, Mr. and Mrs. David Lawrence, thank you so much for coming on board, helping us to understand this topic. It's World Autism Awareness Month, celebrated in this month of April, where autism-friendly events and educational activities will be taking place this month as we try to raise awareness. My Drive Time family, let us be kinder citizens and accept and include persons with disabilities into our homes and into our workplaces. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I hope you were challenged. I hope you were encouraged. I hope you were inspired. I hope that this interview that we shared will be one that, or would have been one that would encourage you to look at people with disabilities much more than their disability. So yes, as there's always a spiritual application. And for those of you who have children with a disability, whether it is autism, whether it is mental retardation, whether it is physical disability, whatever disability it is, that you'll remember what God said to Isaiah. He said, yes, you are mine. I've called you by name. Yes, so this child is yours. And you have called this child, whether him or her, you have called him or her by his or her name. And so this child is yours. So take care of this child. He or she is a gift from God. And yes, he has great plans in store for this child. And so I pray that God will give you the strength, he'll give you the wisdom, he'll show you how you can care for this child, care for your son or care for your daughter, or if it is a niece or a nephew, that God will give you the wisdom in caring and taking care of this child. I pray that you'll have a wonderful week. Yes, it will be a great week. I pray you'll have a safe week, and yes, may God be with you. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and follow us on all our social media platforms.